Now lastly we get to legal structure. As I said before, when businesses expand, more capital is required, and this may lead to ownership structure changing. Let's have a look at the types of legal structures that there are. There's 4 of them. We can classify them into incorporated, so that means that they are a company. They have different benefits, but they also have other downsides and costs. And we have the more simple forms of ownership, but they're unincorporated. Again, they've got advantages and disadvantages. Let's look at those. There are 4 different types of structures for business. As I've explained to you earlier, the unincorporated ones are sole trader and partnership. Here for sole trader, you only have one owner, obviously. It's not incorporated, as I said. Unlimited liability, I'll come back to into in a while. The cost of entry is fairly cheap. The profits and all the workload is shared by the owner, by the one person. Therefore, because there's only one person, expansion to expand your business is difficult, and the management is obviously by the owner, him or herself. In a partnership, you spread the load a bit, but you can have anywhere between 2 and 20 people. Again, no limited liability. The cost of entry is reasonably cheap. It's more expensive as generally a partnership agreement is set up. The profits are shared by the partners as well as the workload, and it's the managers who are the partners in this setup as well. Because you've got more people, the expansion or possibilities for expansion are therefore increased. Now we come to incorporated enterprises. Now the thing with incorporated enterprises is that the most a person can lose is the amount that they put into the business. So for example, if you start up a company and put in $100,000 as initial capital, then that's all you can lose. So your liability is limited to the amount of investment that you put in. Now this is opposed to the sole trader and partnership, right, where you can put in $100,000 either by yourself or in a partnership, and if the business unfortunately goes bankrupt and your debts that you owe after all your assets have been sold off exceed that amount, then you then have to come up with that excess from your own personal assets. So in an extreme situation, if the amounts are high, you may be forced to sell your own house or other assets in order to meet that shortfall. So that's the big downer for the sole traders and partnership. And for private and public companies, that's the big advantage. There are some downsides. The cost of entry is one, where because you have to adhere to so many regulations and laws in the Companies Act, very expensive to set up and to administer every year. In terms of the profits, if I have a 10% shareholding in a private company, I'm going to get 10% of the profits. In relation to a public company, I might hold 1,000 shares. The board of directors decide that they will allocate 10 cents per share, so I'm going to get $100. The expansions, the possibility for expansions are a lot easier, especially for a public company, because they can have a public float, as it's called, to attract a whole lot of other people from the public to take part in their new business venture or expanded business venture. The other thing that's different about companies is that you have a board of directors who are directly responsible to run the company as well as the management. And the important thing to note here is that management and the board of directors are separate, totally separate from the owners of the business. Now that doesn't mean that directors and managers can't have shares in this company. Now the other distinguishing feature about companies is what they have got after their name. Proprietary Limited, or in the case of a private company, it's Pty. Ltd. And in the public company, it's usually, for example, ANZ Limited with Ltd after it, and that distinguishes a public company from a private company. Now let's turn to some consolidating your understanding from pages 40 and 45 in your text. Now this section is really important. Please complete the questions 1, 2, 4, 6 and 8 on page 40 and questions 7 and 11 on page 45. I hope that this presentation has been useful to you. Certainly a very important part to get you going in the course, and thank you for listening.